Welcome back to another NFL Draft Deep Dive episode. Joined by me today once again is Drew Sucoff, and today we have picks 11 through 20. This is episode 2 of our NFL Draft Deep Dive. So, Drew, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Just got a really good grade on a test, so I'm having a pretty good day.
Hey, that's the college life, man. That's
Oh
a
yeah,
that's a good sign. That means it's gonna be a good day, Drew.
of course.
I mean, it's going to be a good NFL draft episode as we head through picks 1 through 10, which we covered in the last episode. If you haven't checked that out, I would heavily suggest it. We went through all of the top 10 teams in the draft, and now today we will be going through the teams picking 11 through 20, starting, of course, with the Miami Dolphins. So, Drew, I'm going to give you the floor to start us off here with the Dolphins. New GM, John Eric Sullivan from the Green Bay Packers, along with new head coach Jeff Hafley, defensive coordinator from the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I mean, preceding this, if you haven't yet, I'd go and throw on Dylan's Jeff Hafley video. He broke it down a lot, and it really does make a lot of sense because we're talking about a successful organization where you bring in a GM and a head coach, but it's tough because the Dolphins are in a really terrible spot. You said it, Tyreek's probably going to be a cut, and if not, I don't know what's going to happen. They have some pieces, but honestly, this is maybe one of the least desirable spots with low amount of cap space. Um, so it's tough, but in this situation, I feel like what's really been lacking for them is one of those corners, but you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is definitely a team that's not drafting to win this year, for sure. I mean, they're a team
Hold
that's
on, sorry, I'm sorry. Anthony Davis just got traded
what?
to the Washington Wizards.
So he had to take a little break there. Anthony Davis is now a Washington Wizard, but looking back here at the Dolphins, breaking down what they are going to do at pick number 11, looking back at some of their recent draft picks, they grabbed Kenneth Grant early in the first round last year, which some people thought that he would go later in the draft, but I personally was someone who really believed in the talent of Kenneth Grant, and I thought that where they took him relative to his talent level was good. I do think that he could have gone a little later in the draft, and they probably could have gotten him a little later. But in terms of value, I do think that they made the right pick there. I think that Kenneth Grant is a really good player, and he was solid for them this year.
Yeah, Kenneth Grant's a piece that you'll look at it as a future Dolphin and probably a second contract guy. So you're probably not mad about that pick. The only pick you're mad about is a Jonas Ivanaya when you're looking at that top 10 of the second round, where it was 9 for 10, absolute studs, and you have the Dolphins with the worst statistical offensive lineman in the league. So that's a Chris Greer masterclass right there. You got to be happy that you got rid of him.
Yeah, and then looking back at some of their other recent draft picks, Chop Robinson, the defensive end,
We
they've
are.
really they've really tried on these defensive ends recently, and they just have not been able to grab their edge rusher of the future. Chop Robinson, he's looked okay at times. He's showed some flashes, but overall, I don't think he's a long-term answer for the team. I don't think he's ever going to be that edge rusher that you hope to take in the first round. And then Jalen Phillips, of course, a few years back was looked at as a very good pick, except for his injury red flags. And he did end up getting hurt a bunch of times. And now he's playing for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Phillips is definitely a guy who has a lot of talent, and you could see that. It's probably honestly, one of their better picks of the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, Jalen Waddle, honestly, is probably their best pick in a while.
Yeah.
Even though I could have told you Jalen Waddle was going to be a stud, even though he probably hasn't been as good as he could be if he had a quarterback that was serviceable. And quarterback's definitely a big question with the situation, which is really part of the reason that makes this job so undesirable. What do you think they're going to do with the quarterback?
Realistically, I think you bring in a young guy that is unproven and raises your ceiling. Because at this point in with the Dolphins organization, with the point that their team is at, the floor is really low.
Yeah.
And the floor is gonna be low for next season, no matter what you do. They're not adding some crazy free agents. They have the 11th pick in the draft. It's not like they're getting a top five talent, and they're in one of the worst situations in the league. So I think realistically, you're looking at a guy like an Anthony Richardson or Malik Willis that you can go out there and just get one of these young guys that is unproven. And I mean, we've seen these guys just absolutely revive their careers recently after being given up on by their original franchises. So I think the Dolphins kind of just blindly throw a dart and hope maybe somehow it hits.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest name out there for a guy like this year is Kyler Murray, but I think he's a little old for the Dolphin situation.
For sure.
So it's tough to tell there. I could see them throwing a dart, like you said, in like late day two, day three, with like a Drew Aller or someone like that, just to maybe see what they got in a guy. Quinn Ewers still is. He looked okay. He looked like like an NFL quarterback, maybe a backup, but
Yeah.
so does Tua. And you're probably looking at a team that is in that Arch Manning, Dante Moore situation next year.
Yeah, for sure. You're definitely looking at a team that is the fans of this team are already making jersey swaps with Arch Manning and Dante Moore for the 2027 draft. But we do have a quarterback by the name of Ty Simpson that is a very uncertain prospect in this draft. Nobody really knows where he's going to go right now. We're pretty certain he'll wind up in the first round, somewhere in the first round.
Yeah, I'd agree, especially as you were saying in the past video. Go check that one out. That he would have taken his 7 million to stay,
Yeah.
uh, but he thinks he's going to end up in that first round. And honestly, I don't see this as a John Eric Sullivan first pick
Yeah. That's a
in
great point,
his.
actually.
I
That
don't.
would be a swing for the fences.
Yeah, I don't. He doesn't strike me as a swing for the fence type of guy coming from Green Bay, who's a very build from the line, build from the trenches type of guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And that's why Spencer Fano is my first guy on this list. I think if he's there, he's got to be the pick. I just think your tackle and your line situation is just so poor right now in Miami. And you're not gonna grab a guy at this pick that's gonna help you compete right away. Because as we've said multiple times, this is just not a team that's in the position to do so. So while you're at pick 11, which hopefully, if you're the Dolphins, your next first round pick will be a quarterback. Why not grab the tackle of the future to block for your future quarterback?
Yeah, Spencer Fano is definitely a premium top half first round tackle in most draft classes, I'd say. I also really like a corner idea here. If McCoy makes it to you, I really wouldn't hate that. But I think Fano makes a lot of sense from the John Eric Sullivan perspective and from the team building perspective.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways they can go here simply because there's a lot of holes on this roster, but I think outside of that tackle spot, I think that the DB room has just got to improve in
Yeah,
almost every way. You might need five new starters back there. Maybe outside of Minka, of course,
who's
but
already pretty old.
Is Minka a part of your long-term plans? If you're John Eric Sullivan, I don't think so. Is he going to be on this team when you're hopefully competing again? I don't know about that. Minka's definitely taken a step down in his game, and I think that realistically, if you're going secondary here, it's probably going to be corner. But if Caleb Downs is still there, it could definitely be an option for the Dolphins.
Yeah, without a doubt. Caleb Downs is a difference maker, so I could see that happening. But I don't see him making it. I don't. He's just the most premium safety prospect we've seen. I think he's better than Kyle Hamilton was. I maybe Derwin James. Um, I don't know, but he's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so finishing up here with the Dolphins, I feel like tackle has got if Fano's there, it's got to be the pick. I don't think there's another tackle I'd take at 11 outside of course Maui Noah, who we would assume will be gone by this point. And in my opinion, I actually think both tackles will be gone at this point. And I think the Dolphins are realistically looking at one of the corners.
I would agree.
All right. So moving on from Miami, we head to pick number 12, a team that has two picks in this 11 to 20 range, the Dallas Cowboys, who are,
GM
of
Jerry
course,
Jones.
yep, managed by Jerry Jones. So a lot of the talk recently has been about George Pickens because he's was arguably one of their best players last year. He was arguably their best player last season. Honestly, he really took a step up in his game. And at the end of the day, the Cowboys are still sitting here picking at number 12. So, what do the Cowboys have to do defensively in order to improve and put together a playoff caliber roster?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have to address the whole entire defense. I would say, except for the interior of their D line, which is pretty good.
Yeah,
Um, that cornerback room could use some work for
it's
sure. And
bad. Yeah.
I believe that the linebackers is the biggest should be the biggest point of emphasis on their offseason because I mean they had one of the most high flying, most fun, hard to watch for me because I'm a Giants fan, but most fun to watch offenses. It's Dak probably had his best season of his career.
Definitely
Just
up there. Yeah.
yeah, like if you think about it, it's a two-horse race between Drake May and Matthew Stafford, but is Dak third? Like
If
Dak,
if the Cowboys had a better record, I think that could be a real thing.
like
That would definitely be an MVP talks.
yeah, I mean Dak had a really good year. He's still that great quarterback. Like he's still your guy.
Yeah.
You're still looking at a playoff caliber offense. It's just you really need to address that defense. And in my opinion, there's no position that is really ranking above the others. You're really taking the best defensive player available, unless it's like a interior. Like I probably wouldn't go with the Caleb Banks here or anything.
And honestly, in my opinion, I think you're looking at a championship caliber offense, not just a
Mhm.
playoff caliber. I think that this offense is ready to compete for a Super Bowl. And I just think that there's so much improving that needs to be done on the defensive side of the ball for this team. And that clearly showed last year.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that defense was horrid.
Yeah.
You would look at back in the fantasy days where it would be like just play the quarterback that's playing the Cowboys because they're going to put up points. I mean, that the defense is what needs to be addressed. You're looking at the free agents. I don't see Pickens leaving. Javonte Williams, they'll probably bring him back or find another running back again.
Yeah.
I really do think it'll be a similar offense. The offensive line is pretty good, so it's definitely a defensive pick.
Yeah, I mean, they have the pieces offensively, obviously, as we've said. They have a piece on defense in Quentin Williams. They also have a guy in DeMarvion Overshone who was injured for a lot of last year, who was one of my favorite players coming out of his draft class. And I really thought that when he came back last year, he was a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
And
over. Sorry.
no, yeah, the Cowboys are a team that, as you said, the linebackers struggled this year, and the Cowboys even went out and made a trade for a linebacker. They traded for Logan Wilson from Cincinnati, who ended up getting benched at the end of the year. So that clearly didn't work out for them. And Overshone was just clearly the standout guy in that group. Even after the Quinn and Williams trade, I thought that he was arguably the most notable player on that defense. And when you talk about just trying to build around guys on the defensive side of the ball, I think that Williams and Overshone are staples of your defense.
Yeah, Overshone is one of the scariest guys I've ever seen. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
the guy
sweat
is
bandit.
huge. He's fast, and I mean, he is so scary. Hits like a truck. And I can only imagine how scary that defense would be on the inside with on that front seven with Overshone and Sonny Styles.
Yeah, Sonny Styles would be, in my opinion, I know it's not the most valuable position. I know you'd probably rather a superstar edge, you'd rather a superstar corner, but man, Sonny Styles would be an incredible get for this Cowboys team.
Yeah, in the middle of the field, he would change. He would change the game. You can look at the last time the Cowboys had a real difference maker in the middle of the field was maybe Sean Lee. Um,
Mhm.
I think that Sonny Styles would change that defense. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys use 7 picks on defense this draft. And I mean, I think at 12, it's 100 as you mentioned, mostly defensive players. I could see a McCoy or a Delane going here, but I just love the fit with Sonny Styles.
Yeah, I definitely think that they're gonna try to add a receiver at some point, day two or more likely day three of the draft, just considering George Pickens is a free agent and Jalen Tolbert is a free agent. And realistically, you're probably tagging Pickens. And if you're tagging Pickens, you're definitely not paying a guy like Jalen Tolbert with how much money that tag puts on a guy like George Pickens. So you're definitely looking to add a cheap receiver to that room, which would be a likely day two or day three option. But there is a scenario, of course, where George Pickens is not brought back. And if one of the receivers is staring at you here at number 12, do you consider taking a guy like Mekhi Lemon, even with the state that your defense is in?
It's tough because I could see the Cowboys doing it. Personally, I really don't think you should.
Yeah,
Um, I also think that Pickens is one of those top 5 receivers that is worth putting the tag on.
for
Either
sure.
way, whether they do, whether they don't, I would really expect Pickens to be a Cowboy next year. But I think no matter what, it's the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would think that the only way I could really explain the Cowboys going receiver is this is a team that they want to bring in the money and they want the marketing and bringing in if Mekhi Lemon is on the board, if Carnell Tate is on the board, if Jordan Tyson is on the board, it's definitely going to be it's definitely going to be difficult for a guy like Jerry Jones to pass up on one of those guys.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, you never know what could happen in the draft. You know, you can, for all we know, the Cowboys could trade up. But more than likely, you're sticking and picking. If Mekhi Lemon makes it to you, and you re-sign George Pickens, because I don't see a world where they let him go,
I
man.
mean, that'd be pretty crazy.
That would be wild, and that would take them to the best receiver room in the in the
I
in in,
mean,
in the league.
easily. Yeah.
But how can you put up 40 points and keep losing? I mean,
Yeah.
at some point you got to put the team above the money.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that a lot of teams definitely struggle to do that in the modern NFL landscape, but it's something that's got to be done. And looking here at number 12, in my opinion, talking about the absolute best fit for the Cowboys, I think that Keldrick Falk would be an absolute home run for the Cowboys here. And people people will definitely argue that he's not 12th overall good. People will definitely argue that he's just not talented enough to be taken at the number 12 spot. But I mean, you just talk about a guy that looks the part, man. This guy is an absolute athletic freak. He's a big dude. He can stop the run with the best of them at the edge position. You worry about his production as a pass rusher for sure, but in terms of just fit on this defense, you have Donovan Ezaraku, who you drafted last year, who is your pure pass rusher of an edge rusher. So why not get a pure run stopper who has the ceiling as an edge rusher on the other side in Keldrick Falk?
Yeah, I mean Keldrick Falk, he just reminds me so much of Shamar Stewart from last year. Um,
That's
and
yeah, it's definitely grouping guys together just based on some specific
probably.
yeah, but
I I don't know if it's the same mental side. Like I don't know. I
yeah,
Keldrick Falk is one of those guys that kind of rose throughout the season. A guy you didn't mention here is also Cassius Howell, who I like from Texas
yeah,
A&M. I think he could also make a difference on the other side of the edge because I think the of run defense and pass defense. Run defense is what is the better of the two as of now, with Quentin Williams of the middle, who's top 5
I'd
interior.
really worry about how this team could stop the run if your edge rushers are Cassius Howell and Donovan Ezraku.
Oh, Cassius Howell cannot stop the run for anything.
No.
Um,
And
but I
there's a lot of those guys in the draft is interesting. A lot of this edge class is these really one-dimensional guys, which we've all just mentioned two of them.
Yeah, I think if you look at the recent spike of edge rushers, it's less about production and more about looking the part, testing the part, and they're really like the NFL is really valuing these 6'5", 230 speed pass rushers. Where
Yeah,
personally, I'm edge is one of those positions where I look at production the most out of
yeah,
any position, which is very different from many NFL GMs. Like, I was absolutely like, not a fan of Tyree Wilson at all,
hmm
and that happened to be true and work out. But it also, I also wasn't the biggest fan of Micah Parsons even coming out of Penn State. So, it's really hit or miss. And Keldrick Falk is one of those guys who you think will be good. Um, but I just don't think he's the best defensive player. I just don't think he'll be the best defensive player available for the Cowboys here.
yeah. I mean, what we talk about with that is really that you can look at pressures all you want, and pressuring the quarterback is important, but sacking the quarterback is also important.
Yeah.
And sacking the quarterback is a skill. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that. They look at these pressures and they look at these guys with the high pressure numbers and they say, oh, the sack numbers will come. And that may be true sometimes, but also it could just not be coming. It
Mhm.
could just be how that player is. They can get the pressure and they just can't finish the play.
Yeah, and something scares me that Cassius Howell might be one of those guys. So, but he definitely is the type of guy that can get to the quarterback. Um, but Sonny Styles is a guy that finishes plays, and he finishes
Yeah.
plays with 10, 11, 12 tackles a game at Ohio State. I mean, the guy was all over the field in every single game, and he's not small. He could guard, I think, every single position on the field. He was an ex safety.
Yeah.
Um,
Former safety.
this the fit here is just amazing.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think we very much agree on this. I think Sonny Styles is your home run here. I
Yeah,
think if he's available, that's the best pick you can make. And if not, you're probably looking at one of the corners or one of the edge rushers.
yeah. We've been talking about it's always one of the corners, but I think they're not very similar skill sets at all.
No, they're
Uh,
not.
Delane is more of like a slower,
Yeah,
smaller. Like
for
they're the
sure.
same size, but
And it's
McCoy,
it's really hard to project guys like that
Delane,
because you see the instincts on the field. And it's like, man, like how you watch this guy and you're just like, how can he not be good in the NFL if he's doing these things at the college level? But at the end of the day, sometimes those traits just don't translate to the NFL when you simply just can't keep up with the guys the same as you did in college. I mean, the difference in just speed and play strength, especially I do worry about how Delane's game is going to transfer, and that's why I prefer McCoy
mhm.
because I do think McCoy is overall a better player, and it's so hard. And I mean, talk about hard to project. It's hard to project a guy that didn't play the
Yeah,
entirety of last season. That's for sure. Because we've seen corners that look like top five picks one year, and they're projected to be a top five pick, and then all of a sudden the next year comes around and they look borderline undraftable.
yeah. I can
So,
give you 10
yeah,
examples of those right now with like Keely Ringo, Kamari
100%.
Lassiter.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
Kamari Lassiter's a bit of a different story.
Well,
Sean
he
Wade.
was
Sean
he
Wade's the one I like to throw it back to.
Sean Wade. Oh, Sean Wade. Uh,
Yeah.
Ben Morrison, but he was just
Ben
because he didn't
Morrison.
play.
Yeah.
I was a
He's
big fan of
he
Benjamin
started
Morrison.
for the Bucs this year, a bunch of games.
I was a big fan of his. He ended up going
Yeah.
like the third or second or
Second,
third
second,
round.
third round. Yeah, day two.
It was him and Will Johnson. It was like they were
Yeah.
the two can't miss cornerback prospects, and they both
But
got hurt in that play.
Will Johnson, yeah, Will Johnson was mainly because of injury. And so was Morrison's, to be fair.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, cornerback is just one of those positions that's just hard to project. It
I,
really is.
I hope McCoy doesn't fall because I think he's going to be a cornerback one in the league.
For sure.
I
All
don't see
right.
that with Delane, but
So, yeah, moving on from the Cowboys. You ready to move to pick 13?
without a doubt.
we go to the Los Angeles Rams, who just recently fell in the NFC Championship game. And now they pick at 13, which is a luxury. And it's a luxury that you really can't mess up if you're the Rams here, because this is not a position you ever expect to be in again or in the near future if you're this organization.
Yeah, Les Snead is one of the more aggressive GMs of
Yeah.
as of late. They have really they have holes on the defense. I mean, it was the like one of the lowest paid defensive units, and they ended up being amazing. But that was probably the reason they didn't make any further. Um,
Yeah, and Chris Shula is coming back,
mhm.
which is a really good sign because I did not think they were going to be able to get him back. And we'll say the same thing in just a few minutes when we talk about the Vikings with Brian Flores.
Yeah, yeah. And the Rams are in one of those spots where it's really exciting to have because you can take the best player available and it
Mhm.
will fit a position that you can use because the best player available will be an edge rusher, which they can use. I mean, they have Byron Young and Jared Verse, who are both amazing, but they're not three down guys that can go every single play of every single game. So, but one of those edges probably won't fall. You can use a offensive tackle. Who knows if they're going to bring back Rob Havenstein? He wasn't even one of the best tackles in the league this year. And you're looking at positions like corner where they absolutely can use because Kobe Bryant is Kobe Bryant even there anymore?
Are you talking about
Is
Kobe Durant?
Kobe Durant?
Yeah.
Sorry, Kobe Durant. It's like their cornerbacks are Emmanuel Forbes and Kobe
Corner,
Durant.
yeah. Corner is a position of need for sure for the Rams. I think, in my opinion, if you're really looking at this pick 13, if you're the Rams and you're saying, okay, we need to use this to upgrade at one of these positions that we struggled with last year, I think it's tackle. If Fano's there, it's you're running to the podium and turning in that card.
Yeah,
I don't
Fano
even think it's a question. I don't think there's another guy in this draft that is would be, I think if the Rams are picking at number 5, I think they take Fano.
over Maui Noah.
I think I think they'd take one of the tackles. I don't know. I don't know if I think they'd prefer one or the other.
Fano is a much better pass protector.
I think Fano is more polished than Maui Noah is, and that's why I would lean Fano because the Rams, as we've said, are a win now team,
Uh-huh.
and that's why I would lean Fano. But so yeah, as we mentioned, they have holes on this roster, and those holes specifically are tackle and cornerback. But there is the other route that you can take, which is the mindset of, hey, we're picking at 13. We're not going to be in this spot again. We're never going to be able to take our franchise quarterback this high in the first round, are we?
Yeah,
So,
no, with
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
without a doubt, that could be a thought process. I just think that the Rams are smart enough to be like, we could get Ty Simpson next year in probably the fifth or sixth round, or a player of that caliber. Um,
yeah, and I
so
mean at the end of the day, that's just difference of opinion. I mean, if the Rams love Ty Simpson, if they look at his tape from the first half of the year and some underrated tape, in my opinion, the tape from the Oklahoma game, man, that showed some resilience. I think that based on the first half of the year and based on the Oklahoma game, if maybe Ty Simpson takes one of those what's it called? The things from Men in Black where you erase their memory and you say, "Hey, the Indiana game just didn't happen. Like that wasn't me." Then I think I could see scouts falling in love with him, and I think that a coaching staff like the Rams, if they like him and they say, "Hey, I think we can develop this guy to be our next quarterback, next franchise quarterback after Matthew Stafford, who's getting up there in age," then I don't see why not take him at 13.
yeah, the Rams are one of those teams that would make me believe in Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
There's not many of those teams in the league. Like if the Jets took him, I would be so out on him. but behind Matt Stafford, it's definitely a good situation for a quarterback to be going into. I just struggle to believe that Ty Simpson is that guy, but I definitely see a world where they take him.
Okay, moving on to pick 14. We have the Baltimore Ravens with GM Eric DeCosta. The Ravens are in an interesting spot. They shifted coaching staffs this past offseason or this offseason with new head coach Jesse Minter. So, Drew, what do you think the pick is here at 14?
Yeah, the pick here at 14 is I think you nailed it right on the head. I think if one of those receivers make it there, it actually makes a lot of sense just because they'll probably be the best player on the board by a wide margin. I think Denzel Boston is also a receiver you could look at here, but at the end of the day, I think Vega Ioane is would be a home run would be a home run pick here. I think that would really help out Declan Doyle and his offense for the first time. Give Lamar Jackson another piece up the middle, especially if they don't bring back Tyler Linderbaum. I know he's not a center, and centers are generally replaceable at times. Even though Tyler Linderbaum is definitely a top tier center. But I like the idea of Vega here, and then you got Caden McDonald, Peter Woods, Caleb Banks down there as options. I don't necessarily see it, but it's definitely possible. And then obviously the corners who seem to be an option for every single team from this 11 to 16, 17 range.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because those two corners are honestly guys that I can see going in the widest range of really anybody in this draft, and you're about to see these defensive tackles a lot with these next few teams as well. In terms of the receivers, well, first of all, just in general, I do think, and it sounds weird, but I do think that going offense here is what makes sense, even with hiring the defensive head coach, because I feel like you can bring in other guys to fill out the defense. And if you're Jesse Minter, this is your team now. And you want to do everything you can do to help your new offensive coordinator. So I do think that going offense here makes more sense. And Minter will sort of just be confident in the pieces that he can bring in through free agency and through day 2 and 3 of the draft for his defense this year. And I think that addressing the trenches is something that has to be done for the Ravens because that offensive line is really just not in a good spot. And
Yeah, and
yeah, you go.
yeah,
You go.
and if any of those tackles make it there, it's easy. You run up to the board,
Yeah,
and you make it work. But I doubt they will be there. And I think you didn't mention them just because of the pure. There's almost no chance they do make it.
yeah,
Um, and I love the interior idea. I think Vega Ioane was the best player at Penn State this season, without a doubt. Nobody gets through him. Obviously, it's not really that impressive, but I don't think he gave up a sack this season. Um, I guess obviously it's still impressive, but
it's pretty impressive. Yeah,
but but it's more the run blocking from him, and he's not a small guy.
yeah. I mean, Viga Ioane, we could make a whole segment about breaking him down as a player and how good we think he's going to be, but I really think that the interior of that offensive line needs a lot of help. And I don't think that paying a center north of 15-20 million dollars a year is what's going to help improve the interior of that line because
Yeah.
spending all of that money on one player, no matter how good he is, and he is a very good player, but he's a center. And
Mhm.
center is a very replaceable position. And I think let someone else go pay him 20-25 million dollars a year and you go fill out the interior of that offensive line instead of spending all that money on one of those positions. You even it out, spend it on three, and balance out that offensive line.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more to be said here. I mean that interior, the offensive line is the clear worst part of this team right now. I
Yeah.
guess the weapons on the outside maybe aren't the best, but
Better,
there's a world.
probably better than the line though. I mean,
He's
Zay
probably
Flowers is a guy. Rashad Bateman exists, and Isaiah
yeah,
Likely too.
Tez Walker.
Tez Walker. Wow, that's a it is
He's
pretty
the wide receiver
crazy.
three.
Yeah, the production that they've gotten out of some of these guys who really just they're just not very good. I mean, Tez Walker's a decent player at times. He could be a good wide receiver four, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Now that that's definitely not saying much. But yeah, I think that they really thought when they made that Zay Flowers pick, they thought this was their superstar guy. And it just didn't turn out that way. And I believed in Zay Flowers. I was a huge Zay Flowers fan. So I do think that grabbing the guy that you think can be your superstar receiver, if one of those three guys is there, I think that could definitely be the pick.
Yeah, without a doubt. They're definitely better than Vega Ayane as a prospect perspective and also positional value.
Yeah,
So
positional value definitely. I mean, they're all very good players. They're all great talents. They're all worth the 14th overall pick, probably more.
yeah, it would make sense at the with the wide receivers there. There's a few guys that make sense. I'm trying to think but it really does make sense to go with the offensive side of the ball because the defense was not the issue.
Yeah.
And the issue is
I wouldn't say
the
the defense was not the issue. I would say that the hiring of Minter just kind of raises the floor of that defense from what it was before. And that what you really want to work to do is improve the pieces around Lamar Jackson so that Minter can have his defense and
mhm.
Lamar can run his offense and that those two obviously sides of the ball can come together to form a what is hopefully going to be a playoff team if you're Baltimore.
Yeah, and there's a guy you didn't mention here, Trace Mack. That could be a play here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Tyler Loop definitely gonna be run out of Baltimore at some point,
Yeah,
but probably won't be this year. I don't know.
he was okay.
Yeah. I saw a video from like I think it was like the beginning of the season. I think it was after week one, and some guy was like, man, like I know Tyler Loop made a couple kicks tonight, but I really think that going into this and obviously like having Justin Tucker before is a high standard, but this guy was like having Tyler Loop when the season comes down to a kick against the Steelers in week 18 and he misses it, I'm not gonna be sorry. And then it's exactly what happened. And it was almost as if it was scripted for
Yeah,
Baltimore. I mean, it's not like either of those teams were putting up even a fight in the first round of that playoff.
that's a fair point. They would
Yeah.
not have. They would have probably scored 7 points.
Yeah. Um, so at 14, receiver is certainly an option. If one of those three guys are there, it's definitely going to be hard to pass on them just in terms of talent. Viggy Ioane, very much an option. And then if we do talk about the defensive side of the ball, I do think it has to be corner or the interior of the defensive line. I think less interior line since we've gotten some more positive news in terms of Nnamdi Madubuike, who, I mean, at the peak of his powers, was one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the NFL.
Yeah, he had a big neck injury, right?
Yeah, he had what I mean for the first, not first, like the past few months since really the end of the season, since the end of the regular season, I would say, when I've been doing mock drafts, Peter Woods at 14 has been one that I have really come back to a lot. And that was because you assumed, I mean, really the assumption was that Matabike's career was kind of done.
Yeah, yeah. I saw
But
some news of a career-ending injury, but
yeah,
I guess it seems like he's going to be back, maybe even by next season.
yeah, there's definitely been some positive news on that part, which is a really great get back for the Ravens. If he can get back to being the player that he once was, that would be a huge boost to that defense. And not to say that defensive tackle can't still be the pick if he's back, but it's definitely less likely. I think they'd rather go in the direction of one of these corners.
Yeah, and Eric DeCosta's really been all over the place forever.
Yeah.
He's been a pretty good drafter for what it's worth. And they usually just go best player available, but you do seem to they seem to go against the positional value every once in a while.
Yeah. I can also see them just prioritizing a pass rusher, whether that's on the interior or on the outside. It just depends on how much you still believe in Mike Green, because
Yeah,
that was supposed to be this home run steal of a second round pick, and he was really just nothing last year.
yeah.
All right, ready to move on to
Yes,
number
sir.
15. We move to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
Yep.
who, if at the beginning of the draft process, if you weren't mocking them Sonny Styles, you were getting absolutely flamed by any Buccaneers fan in existence. Since then, I think Sonny Styles' stock has definitely risen a bunch, and they've sort of cooled down on that and kind of faced the realization that he won't be there.
Yeah.
But looking at this pick at 15, I think this is really the spot where I look at a pass rusher, and I think this is likely where that next pass rusher comes off the board. And the other guy I really look at that I think could be a very underrated pick here is Kenyon Sadiq. With the
Yeah.
yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah. I really like. I was gonna mention that even before I even saw this, but I definitely have seen Kenyon Sadiq to Bucs, and I think
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Baker uses K Dot a lot
yeah.
more than he probably should, because K Dot is not a top tier tight end. And Kenyon Sadiq would be that guy. I just think that they've used so much draft capital on pass catchers that at this point, just address the defense, man.
That is a very good point. I mean, if you look at their recent picks, there's three receivers and a running back in there already. They did draft Kate Otten recently as well. But adding a guy like Sadiq to your offense is definitely a game changer. And when you look at the state that this offense is in, you look at Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at the top of that list, and both of those guys are in the latter end of their career. Mike Evans, as mentioned here, is a free agent. So there's a world where they don't bring him back. And in the world where they don't bring him back, and maybe they also move on from Godwin as well, that is really the universe where I see them going with a guy like Sadiq, because he really isn't just a true tight end. He's a
Mhm.
weapon for your offense in general. And just having him lining up alongside Egbuka, and then you've got McMillan hopefully back on the outside there, who took a pretty big step back this year because he was really just buried in the depth chart.
Yep.
But you have some young guys in the receiver room on this roster, and you're right that that defense just needs to improve.
Yeah, there's been a lot of flashes. I do think that if the corners are there, I'm not sure what they're gonna do with Jamel Dean. I'm not. How did he do this season?
He was hurt towards the end of the year, so it was a bit hard to tell. And then their corner room just leaves some to be desired. I mean, Ben Morrison was starting there. He's obviously coming out of college. One of his biggest flaws was his injury history.
Hmm.
So looking at that, I mean, he wasn't hurt this year, but it's definitely a position that they could use to add some pieces.
Yeah, this feels like a more of a Keldrick Falk spot than a Cassius Howell spot, because you have a guy like Vita Vea in there,
Mhm.
who absolutely stuffs like every single run that comes your way. And Falk is kind of a guy that you can line up on the middle with him that will give you a little bit more speed,
Yeah,
a little bit more a little more finesse. Might be able to get to the quarterback a little bit, and he's not the same player as Vita Vea. With Cassius Howell, they have their pass rush wasn't absolutely horrendous. Yaya Diaby's still there. I don't know what he's doing. Um, if he's on free agent, right?
doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they're fine. The linebackers are definitely extremely old, so Sonny Styles would definitely be probably the best option here. But there's not a linebacker here that you really could see being taken. Um, So I love the idea of the corners. Just because your third corner right now is Josh Hayes, who I haven't heard of. Um,
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean that's a good way to look at it. I do think it's corner or pass rush here for for the Bucs. And as you get into the later part of this draft, and this is definitely going to be a topic that we discuss in the future, and certainly will be a topic we discuss in the next video in this series, is Akeem Mesidor.
Uh huh.
Because yeah, this guy's 25. At the end of the day, he's gonna be pushing 30 by the time his rookie contract is up. And that's not what you want in a first round pick. But when you're a team that is trying to win now, you're trying to add a player to your roster that can help you compete this season. I mean, I don't know if there's a more pro-ready player in this entire draft than Akeem Mesidor.
Yeah, Mesidor's a guy who should already be on a second NFL contract.
Yeah.
Um, so it's tough. It's tough to value as a draft prospect if you're if you're looking at a guy and you're like, yeah, we can get. He must be the same age as Micah Parsons right now. So you're looking at a guy. If you can be like, yeah, we can get a guy of the stature, the age, the size of Micah Parsons on a rookie contract, yeah, you do it, and you love that. It's just you don't love the idea that he hasn't been with you for the last 3 years, and he's honestly probably not going to be a guy that'll be in the league for more than 5 6 years. So yeah, he could be your type of guy that is a pass rusher, helps you out. I just don't know if the Bucs is the right fit. I get the idea. I just prefer one of the other two guys.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. I think it's more likely that he goes to a team picking maybe in the early 20s, maybe in the later 20s. But looking at the Bucs here, I think we kind of have it on the money with pass rusher corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then linebacker is just a huge need that unfortunately can't be addressed at this spot.
I don't
But
think you can go Anthony Hill here.
yeah, they'd have to address it in some other way, whether that's through free agency or through one of the other days in the draft.
Or trade. But that
Or
doesn't really
trade.
happen.
You don't see it very often in the NFL, the player trades. Not as often as we have. I mean, we've already probably been more big NBA trades in this recording than there have been in the entire NFL, or actually maybe not this year with
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. Those were some big trades.
Michael Parsons.
Micah Parsons was last offseason. That is true. Yeah.
I guess yeah. Someone who is a linebacker who I will have a first round grade on is CJ Allen out of Georgia.
Yeah. I
I
I completely agree with that.
I just don't know if he's a 15th
At
overall
15.
prospect.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the issue. If they could trade back
Mhm.
and get him, maybe if a team falls in love with Kenyon Sadiq, or maybe one of the receivers is falling and a team wants to trade up and get him. If the Bucs could trade down and get CJ Allen, that would
I
be
think
a
it would
really
make a lot
good
of
fit.
sense.
I
Yeah.
would really like that. That guy he flies around a defense, man.
Yeah.
And just trying to replace a guy like Levante David, who is the opposite, as considering his age and physical condition, I think that CJ Allen would be a really good fit on this team.
Yeah, without a doubt. I love the idea
All right, ready to move on to 16.
for sure.
We go to our first repeat of this first round in the New York Jets.
Yeah, I love the DT here. I also believe this is a very, very popular Ty Simpson spot.
Yeah,
This is the first that you mentioned a guy like Lee Hunter, who, as you mentioned, had an insane senior bowl.
yeah.
UCF last year, Texas Tech this year. So you know you love your Texas Tech D tackles and your D linemen. You know if it's a Texas Tech guy, it's probably going to be a solid.
They really just know how to evaluate talent.
Yeah,
It's pretty crazy. And at the end of the day, like some of these teams have more money to spend than others, yes, but some of these teams just have an eye for talent.
yeah.
And they know which guys to bring in. And Texas Tech is very clearly one of those teams.
as of late at least.
Yeah, I'm more talking about in the NIL era.
Yeah. I with the Jets here, I think um Aaron Glenn is the type of guy that's going to be like, let's build from the trenches. Your offensive line is one of the better young offensive lines in the league. So I love the idea of addressing the interior D lineman here. I think you can't go wrong. I love the Peter Woods fit here, though.
I really like one of the defensive tackles in this spot because obviously your other pick is at number 2, so none of these guys are really in the question. But at this spot at 16, this feels like a prime defensive tackle spot. And not only that, it feels like you can get your top choice
Probably.
because as long as none of these guys go, which I could obviously see happening, but I do very much see a very realistic world where all 4 of these guys are still on the board for the Jets here at 16.
Uh-huh. And I think that if you take your choice at it, I wouldn't trust the Jets with picking the right one, but
Yeah.
um it's tough. The only one I think you could really go wrong with is Cade McDonald. I'm not a fan at all. But that's to each his own. Some guys love Caden McDonald. I just don't think he's that middle top end first round talent. I see him more as a day 2 pick.
So what do you think of Woods if you really don't like Caden McDonald?
Well, I watched Woods last year.
Yeah. Well then you love him.
It's tough because I'm a
Yeah.
guy that I really believe in multiple year tape. I don't believe that you look at 1 year and you're like, that's the guy. And I also don't believe you look at 1 year and you're like, he can't do it anymore. As you look at a guy like Kamari last year, who was a top 5 pick and he had a down season and he still ends up being a top whatever he is cornerback in the league right now with the
Yeah.
best defense in the league. I think it's really hard to evaluate that Clemson talent this year because it just wasn't the best situation. And if
Yeah.
you're also looking at a guy like TJ Parker, who I'm still a massive fan of.
I mean, if you just didn't know that the 2025 college football season happened, you'd probably have 3 Clemson players in the top 10 of your draft.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah, it did happen. And it was, as you said, there's really no better way to put it other than just an absolute mess.
I I was at their best home game of the season against FSU.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Peter Woods, we saw him after the game out down the downtown and
really?
yeah, I saw
Peter
him
Woods spotting is
100%. We saw TJ
on
Moore too.
Clemson campus.
Yes.
Wow.
At Roar. And he's like, my buddy, I don't know if you know him. He's like, yo, Peter, you're a giant, bro. And he's like, nah.
Yeah, he's a pretty big dude.
He was actually smaller than I thought.
Really.
He looked short. I don't know how tall he
Well,
is.
he's gonna be an NFL defensive tackle.
Oh,
So
for sure.
that's
He
that's
didn't look
already
6'3",
yeah.
but I do like Peter Woods.
Yeah, Peter Woods is a good player. I think that if you're talking about the Clemson guys, I actually think the guy that you're talking about more is TJ Parker. And that's really just because of his Senior Bowl performance,
Mm-hmm.
which it's crazy because if there is one thing that was really gonna show that this Clemson season was just not a good evaluation of their talents, it was the Senior Bowl because that is an environment where you're still playing football. It's not the combine. You're not just running and jumping and everything and showing how athletic you are.
Although you
You're
can only run like 3 plays on offense and 3 plays on defense, but
Well, no, yeah. I'm not talking about the game. I'm more talking about the practice. The game is a whole nother story. I don't even I don't really understand what they're doing with that nowadays. Did you know that the defenses are only allowed to run certain coverages?
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They're only are like
you're
cover
only allowed to
one.
rush 4 defensive line.
Yeah,
You
you can
can
only run.
only ever rush 4 players, and it has to be the 4 defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I did see a TikTok on that.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. So yeah, the Senior Bowl game is another story, but in terms of practice, TJ Parker, as I mentioned in my Senior Bowl Risers video, really had a great week of practice and was one of the standout players in the entirety of of the Senior Bowl. And I think that a performance like that can not only boost the stock of Parker, but
Yep.
also boost the stock of Woods.
And Avion Terrell.
And Avion Terrell is a guy that really has not gotten talked about too much and is on this list here. Really
He's
only
my
gets
favorite
talked
cornerback
about.
prospect in the draft. So
Is he really?
I like him more than
I'm
both of the
not the
Titans.
biggest Avion Terrell fan. I think that he'll probably end up being my corner 4 or 5, probably more likely 5, if I had to say right now. But I do have a pretty high grade on some of these corners, so it's not to say that he's going to be a bad player. I don't know if I would take him in the first round.
Gotcha. I,
But
s- I see what you're saying.
yeah.
I don't think. Sorry, I don't. Terrell's not my number one.
Yeah.
He's over Delane. McCoy's my number one, and McCoy's the only
Okay.
guy I think should really go in the top half of the first round
Yeah.
at all. I don't think Delane's the type of guy that should. And Terrell, I think, is better than Delane, but I still think he's a middle to back end of the first round type of guy. But we got to get back to it at this point. The Jets, this is a defensive tackle pick.
Yeah.
And we didn't mention Ty Simpson. We did in the first video, but Ty Simpson is definitely an option here. I don't think they should do it, man.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day that just continuing to address the holes on your roster, which is everything, is the way to go. Just take best player available. Say you get Arvel reset too, go defensive tackle, go corner. I
Yeah.
just think that you're in a spot where you can really take whoever you want if you're the
Mm-hmm.
Jets.
Which
And
is not always the best spot.
yeah, of course. I mean that usually means that usually means that your roster is not in all too good of a spot.
Yeah,
But yeah, they as we said, they could really go anywhere. If I was making this pick, I think that one of the defensive tackles would be the best spot to go. But the draft is crazy. Some things happen, man, in the NFL draft, and maybe a guy's available that you didn't expect to be.
absolutely.
Maybe a guy's not available that you expected to be.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and the Jets are a team, it's not like they've drafted poorly.
Not at
Like,
all.
if
They've
you
had some
look
good
at it,
picks.
if you, I mean, I saw something the other day. Like, I mean, the fact that they had 3 first round picks in 2022 and they hit on all three, and they're still picking in the top 2 of the draft is pretty crazy. I mean, they had the offensive and defensive rookie of the year,
Was that Jermaine Johnson and Garrett Wilson?
Sauce Gardner.
So,
And
oh, so, of course.
yeah.
Ugh. I didn't
And
realize that was
I
the
mean,
same
Jermaine
draft.
Johnson's still a great player in his own right. And then the next year they grab Will McDonald and then the 2 tackles who are both really good players. So they've
Hmm.
drafted well at the top.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. That
Yeah.
you're looking at all first round picks. I don't
Yeah.
know how many day 2, day 3 guys they've really hit on, which is what changes franchises. That's what you're looking at the Seahawks. This is what they're
Mhm.
doing. Like, yeah, your first round picks are going to be your cornerstones, but if you can get a Nick and Worry in round 2, like
Exactly.
that's what changes the franchise.
Still can't believe the NFL let Mike McDonald get his hands on Nick Emmanwari because
Man,
that is a scary sight.
yeah.
And moving on to pick 17, we have another team, not obviously talking about the Jets, but another team that didn't expect to be picking this highly in the draft in the Detroit Lions with GM Brad Holmes, who has made some really good selections in his tenure with the Lions, but in the past, I'd say year, maybe you can argue two, it really hasn't been the types of draft that you expect from the Lions.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you're looking at a lot of talent on this roster, of course. Like one of the more talented rosters in the league. Obviously, um they weren't expecting to be drafted here, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
And they do actually have a lot of options where they could go here. I love going pass rush here, especially because their guys can't really stay healthy. And I love the 2 guys you mentioned. I think this is absolutely an Akeem Mesidor spot.
yeah,
Um, this is the type of situation that he would thrive in. This type of situation that would make sense to take him in. Now, I don't love him as a prospect. I just think it makes sense team fit, and it's going to have to make sense team fit for a guy that's 25, 20, he's going to be 26 once he starts playing football in the
He'll
NFL.
be he'll be 25.
I guess that's a plus.
Yeah.
Um,
Pretty crazy sentence.
but you also mentioned two offensive lines in your picks at 17, who are guys I do believe in. I think Caleb Lomu, who you have a guy like Panay Sewell who plays on the right side. Caleb Lomu played on the left side in college and is an absolute behemoth of a man.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is huge. He's got to be 340 pounds. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that offensive line, you checking up on
Yeah,
Loma's
314.
weight? 314. All right, so not quite 340.
No,
But I think offensive line really has to be your main priority this offseason if you're the Lions. And grabbing a guy like Akeem Mesidor to rush alongside Aiden Hutchinson would be a really good fit. And I would really like the look of the Lions front seven if that were to happen. But I think that addressing the offensive line is really what has to be done here. I think if Vega Ioane is there, that's your pick.
Why do you say that?
I just don't think that there's another spot on this roster that needs quite the amount of help as their interior of the offensive line. I mean, it
That's
really took a hit this past year. And tackle too, because Taylor Decker is getting up there in age.
hmm. Yeah, it's tough because they have guys. They've had success in the front. They tried to get Frank Ragnow back. That didn't
Yeah.
work out. Um, I just see the Lions as more of a team that's going to address offensive line in free agency. With whatever they have to spend. Um, because it feels like they're more of a team, and offensive line is a position that it's harder to get. Um, it's harder to get production from year one from these younger guys. Um, some guys we didn't mention is that Lions secondary has been hurt for the past 3 years. I mean, every single game they've had guys out. So I wouldn't hate them going with one of the corners here,
Yeah.
especially Colton Hood. I think I like that fit here.
I could definitely see Colton Hood as a potential selection here at 17. I do think that at the end of the day, if Vega Ioane is there,
Yeah,
it's not even a thought.
I would agree. I think he's probably the best option, especially for their need, just because he can
Yeah.
be a guy that's going to come in and also be an offensive lineman of the future. Just
Mhm.
not as confident as sure that he's going to be there.
Yeah, for sure. And if he's not there, I would still say go offensive line, and I would still say go tackle, obviously, instead of guard. And I think the next guy you're looking at on the interior would probably be Pregnon from Oregon, and I don't think I would take him, maybe not even in the first round,
I
unless you
don't
really think that maybe you think Caden Proctor's a guard. Still wouldn't take him this high,
and the
but
guy Lou from Auburn.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
not a first round guy.
yeah, okay, yeah. We're just tackle could be the pick.
Yeah, without a doubt. It can be Taylor Decker is getting up there, but he's still pretty good. He still is a solid and can be your tackle, especially for the next 2 seasons. Um, and you can often get a good tackle in the back end of the first round, which I don't see as much in this draft.
Yeah,
Um, I guess Lomo's pretty good, but yeah, the idea of Vega Yana is definitely the best option, best outcome here.
yeah, and I don't know what you think if you're the Lions, what you think of Tyleik Williams at this point. I mean, it was a very flawed pick at the time last year, and it does fill a need is the interesting thing, which makes it so difficult because if he's not the guy, then who is?
Yeah,
Because then you have to go out and get someone.
he always was going to take time though, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't give up on him yet.
And then DJ Reader and Levi Owens-Urike both being free agents. I think Owens-Urike gets brought back realistically.
One of the two will.
Yeah, it will in all likelihood be Owens-Urike
Yeah.
with DJ Reader just being in the very late end of his career. And then
Yeah,
Alex Anzalone being a free agent is also something that you have to look at if you're Detroit.
yeah, definitely. But I just don't think that linebacker somewhere you can address here. Because once
Yeah.
again, it's too high for CJ Allen. Sonny Styles won't be there. And you have other needs like the offensive line.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from the Lions, we move to a team staying in the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings, with no GM at this current point in time. And from the reports that we've seen, there will not be a new GM by the NFL draft.
Right. They mentioned that there was someone, maybe director of football operations, that is the
It's really just going to be internal guys that are kind of working together as the GM of this organization until they are able to find their next general manager.
yeah, the talent on this team is undeniable,
Yeah,
right? Um the you have holes that exist, but they're not huge, they're not as big. That defense is really good, especially with Brian Flores coming back, which I'm very surprised happened. But I don't know what's gonna happen with Harrison Smith. Maybe he'll go one more year. I know there was
I
thoughts
don't
on it.
I don't think Harrison Smith is going to go another year. At least not in Minnesota.
Okay.
From the vibe that we got from the end of the
Yeah,
season.
when he got that pick.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't seem like he's coming back.
it's just hard for me to point out one specific need on this team because they have a lot of guys that are very good. Corner, you have Isaiah Rodgers, Byron Murphy. Isaiah Rodgers had the best cornerback game I think I've ever seen.
Yep, of course, against the Bengals.
Oh yeah, was it the
It
Bengals?
was against the
What he
Bengals.
had 3 pick six or 2 pick six and a
He
pick
had, I
and
think
fumble recovery.
he had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. He had a pick six, and then I think he had another pick. Something crazy like maybe a forced fumble too in there. It
Yeah.
was a bad game.
You did mention Kenyon Sadiq here. I don't think that is as much of a long shot. Um, I
Really?
like I like the idea just because you just have to give a young quarterback like that a good tight end to throw to, as they mentioned, quarterback best friend. Um, and I wish there was a second top tier running back because I think that would be a good spot right now.
Yeah, the Vikings are definitely a team that would be a Jeremiah Love spot if they were picking higher. In terms of Kenyon Sadiq, the reason I put him as a long shot is really just because of TJ Hawkinson
Uh-huh.
and that he is still looked at as one of the top tight ends in football. But if you're looking at Kenyon Sadiq and you're adding him to this roster, you're not using him as a pure inline tight end. You know,
Right.
you're moving him around the offense. You're using him as a piece in very different ways. So I think that he could be a great option for the Vikings and a team that's really trying to improve their supporting cast for what is hopefully their franchise quarterback. Because I mean, if you mentioned there's not really a glaring hole on this roster.
Mhm.
And what I was gonna say about Flores is that if the Vikings were to lose Flores, I'd be worried. And I'd say I don't think this defense is
Yep.
talented enough. But now that they have him back, I think 1 to 2 additions to the defense, maybe another guy in the cornerback room, and then probably a safety to replace Harrison Smith.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also could be a Caleb down spot, but obviously he won't be there. So I just think it must be a best player available situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's really all just riding on JJ McCarthy. And
Hmm.
if he can be the guy, and with Sam Darnold playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday, and especially if he wins it, there is a lot of pressure on the young man out of Michigan.
Without a doubt.
I don't think there's too much else to talk about with the Vikings. They're
Yeah.
really, I mean, they're a team that's a year removed from a 14-3 record.
Uh,
And that they're a team with a very stable coaching staff and a very unstable management front office right now, considering they don't have a GM. So it's really just about adding that talent and running it back with hopefully an improved JJ McCarthy. Okay, so moving on from the Minnesota Vikings at pick number 19, we have the Carolina Panthers, who were one of the more surprising teams in the NFL this season, and they were able to secure a playoff spot with some late wins by the Atlanta Falcons. They wound up in the playoffs in the wild card round, and they put up a really good fight against
Mhm.
a really good Rams team. So you can't help but be excited about the future for Carolina.
Yeah, the vibes in Carolina are high, man. Um, this is one of the more surprising teams, as you said. The first of our playoff teams to be mentioned.
Yeah,
And Carolina is really a fun spot where you're looking at guys where you can really have your pick on defense. I think that's the biggest issue right now. I know you highlighted the offensive tackle in Caleb Lomu, but I do love pairing someone with Derek Brown in there, like a TJ Parker. Back in Clemson's backyard, Charlotte, they're pretty close to each other. I can't help but to love the fit. I think that the Carolina situation's fun. I like Dave Canales a lot more than other people do. It seems like people are low on Dave Canales. I personally don't buy the buy the dip on him,
yeah,
but um, but yeah, the Carolina Panthers are in a fun spot. They have Tet. They also can go with a wide receiver here. I know they have Jalen Coker,
yeah.
but Jalen Coker could have just been on an insanity run. We don't actually know. Um, but yeah, you mentioned some guys I do like here.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I mean, I think they have the pieces on the offensive side of the ball for the most part. I think they have obviously Bryce Young is really up and down. And it's really crazy. Really just never seen a quarterback with the absolute highs and lows that he has had within, let alone within the same season, within the same quarter.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got his superstar receiver in Ted McMillan, and I don't see them going receiver 2 years in a row. And that would really be the only reason that I'd say that. I do think receivers in need. I don't see them drafting another guy because it would be 3 years in a row. Excuse me. I
That
didn't
is
even
true.
realize that.
Although Leggett is
Because
kind of
Leggett, yeah, Leggett, okay, Leggett's bad. Yeah, he's not very good.
yeah.
But I think that you have other needs that you need to address. And if it's not one of the top three guys, which it obviously won't be here at 19, if you trade down and maybe grab a receiver, I could see that. But I'd rather just go grab, in my opinion, what your biggest need is in pass rush
Mhm.
and pairing someone alongside Nick Scorton. And who better to pair with Nick Scorton than his former teammate at Texas A&M and Cassius Howell?
That's a fair point. Cassius Howell definitely would fit the need of straight pass rush. Um, he's a guy that I need to get up on my tape because
Yeah,
I've watched him a lot more. I watched him a lot more while watching Texas A&M games and being like, "Who is this guy?" Which is always a good thing. When you see
of
when
course.
you
Yeah.
have to find yourself asking, "Who is this guy?" and then you look and you see that he's a first round draft prospect, that means you're doing something right. Um, and Cassius Howell is one of those guys that he he has it. He has it when it comes to the moves. He's not as incredibly raw as some people might think he is, in my opinion at least. And I love the idea of pairing him aside the Nick Scoren and Derek Brown.
Yeah, and I really just think that this is too important of a year of an off season for Carolina to really miss on this first round pick. And with Cassius Howell, you're getting a guy that you know is going to make a difference in your pass rush right away.
Yeah, without a doubt. And corner is also somewhere someone's a need. Mike
Yeah.
Jackson kind of had a Linsanity run, but Mike Jackson can't be your corner two of the
No,
future.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, you have a superstar cornerback in JC Horn. So getting a guy to line up on the other side would definitely be important for Carolina. I more see them addressing that in free agency,
Yeah,
just considering the prospects I see being on the board here. But Avion Terrell, if they fall in love with the prospect,
yeah,
why not keep the Terrell brothers in the same division with
without a doubt.
Carolina and Atlanta?
Definitely.
Um,
And
yeah,
yeah, I like the idea. You also mentioned Kenyon Sadiq down there, which would honestly, if the three receivers go, I know not in my opinion, but in the general public's opinion, he's probably the next best pass catcher. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't hate it. And who's their tight end right now? Like, is it Tommy Tremble?
They have
Steve Sanders?
JT Sanders, who is a very interesting player. And it was a guy that was projected a first round pick for a long while last season. And he just didn't have the production year that he was supposed to at Texas. And he was always a guy that was just going to be a raw talent. So
Hmm.
it's interesting to think if they still believe in him. But I overall I do think that's not a guy that stops you from drafting Kenyon Sadiq.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think I am Bryce Young's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. I just always find myself
How could you
rooting.
not love him? Yeah.
I just always
He's
have
one of
myself
those
rooting
guys.
for him.
Yeah.
And, and I think that Kenyon Sadiq would be the type of guy that could really raise the ceiling of that offense. But the problem is that the floor of that defense right now is just too low for
Yeah.
as far as they went. They probably weren't a playoff level. They probably aren't a playoff level roster right now.
No.
Um, so I think that addressing that defense, if you can get a guy like Cassius Howell who will come out and be a pass rusher that will get you enough sacks that, especially with Nick Scott on the other side, he's a guy who can finish. You have seen that. Sorry. So I do like the fit, and you mentioned TJ Parker here. We haven't talked about him that much, but I think that also makes sense.
Yeah. Pass rush for Carolina would definitely be one of the priorities here, picking at number 19.
Yep.
So now moving on to the last team we have here, and it's a team that we've talked about already in this episode in the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep, and I think this is another spot where you just drill on that defense and you just take the best guy that you have available on your board, whoever it is, whether it's Parker, whether it's Howell, whether one of those. I know Quentin Williams. You have Quentin Williams, but you could still. Is Mozzie Smith still there? That's not
Mozzie
stopping you.
Smith is still there, but I don't know how much that team really likes him as a future defensive
Yeah,
tackle. But
specifically.
yeah, as you mentioned, I don't know if that stops you from
Yeah,
drafting a defensive tackle, but if there's another option, I'd definitely probably go in another direction.
yeah. I think if you can get that Sonny Styles pick there, then maybe that's not maybe it takes CJ Allen out of there.
Yeah,
Um, and then corner's a big need. So if you can grab one of those corners that you like, because there are guys that can still be addressed in the first round and you can defend that pick. So if
yeah,
you can grab a nice corner here, I wouldn't bat an eye. Although I'd like to see them maybe draft Ty Simpson or something.
yeah, and it's hard to talk about pick 20 right now because we don't know who they're picking at 12.
Right.
But it is really dependent on that. But if you do go with one of the corners at 12, then I think realistically, CJ Allen would probably be my pick here.
I would like it.
I would
Unfortunately.
be really high on the improvement of the Cowboys defense. Not that they would make too much of a jump right away, but
Mhm.
I would really bet on them to be a significantly improved unit from last year if they could get Jermon McCoy and CJ Allen. That pairing, in my opinion, would be really great for this defense.
Can you go back to back years where you're spending top 2 round picks on cornerbacks that were hurt?
That's a good point. But
It's tough, but it's not the same
I
situation.
don't, yeah, I don't know if Jermon McCoy is going to be pinned as this injury prone guy
Yeah.
because it's hard to say. Like a guy, it's not a big sample size at the end of the day when you're drafting these guys. I mean, they've only been in college for 2 to 3 to 4
Hmm.
years.
Right.
So he had a major injury and that sucks. And it's definitely something that's going to be looked down on. But I think that at the end of the day, you're drafting the player. You're drafting the
Right.
player for the talent and for the film that he put on tape when he was healthy.
Right.
And I think that Jermon McCoy is a guy that if he was healthy, if he went into the draft last year, he'd have been a top five pick.
But if you're the Cowboys, are you taking him over Sonny Styles?
No. I
No,
I
exactly.
would I personally wouldn't take McCoy over Styles because I think that Styles is that much. I think Styles is in another tier of a prospect than McCoy is. I think
Mhm.
I have Styles in that first tier of defensive players.
Really?
Maybe that's hard to say because Ruben Bain and Arvel Reese are incredible.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe
Downs.
maybe closer to the top of the second tier. But if you were to tell me that Sonny Styles was in the bottom of your first tier of defensive players, I would not argue with you.
Yeah, I think I probably would tear him down a little bit. I think that first tier to me is, as you mentioned, Bain, Reese, and Caleb Downs.
Downs, yeah, that too.
David Bailey might be up there too.
Yeah,
I think that Sonny Styles is probably a bit closer to David Bailey than maybe David Bailey is to the top three. But it's tough to
that's a good
tell.
way to put it. Yeah,
You're just throwing right now. You're just like it's tough to tell, especially when you haven't seen him test or anything. But
yeah,
yes, I would definitely take Sonny Styles there. And if you take Sonny Styles there, then you have the freedom to go wherever you want on
yeah,
the defensive side of the ball because Sonny Styles is going to be that field general in the middle that will change the game. He can go downhill very well, and you could grab a TJ Parker who could rush the passer, or you could take one of these cornerbacks if you do like one of them.
yeah. And that's going to be it for our breakdown of picks 11 through 20. And now moving on to end this video off, we are going to continue with the mock draft. Our top 10 from the last episode is here. If you haven't checked that out already, I would suggest going and watching that first. But just to recap, we had Mendoza at one to the Raiders, then Arvel Reese to the Jets, Francis Maui Noah to the Cardinals, Jordan Tyson to the Titans, Carnell Tate at five to the Giants, Makai Lemon at six to the Browns, Washington taking Ruben Ban at seven, Jeremiah Love to the Saints at eight, David Bailey to the Chiefs at nine, and Caleb Downs to the Bengals at 10. So, Drew, if we want to just continue with the same picks that we had last time, with me being odds and you being evens, is that good?
Sounds great.
All right. So that means I'm gonna start us off here, and that means that you get both Cowboys picks, which
Oh,
is fun for you. But okay, so Miami at 11. Um, we talked about a bunch of the different places they could go, and we talked about corner really being really that main spot that you'd want to address if you're the Dolphins. But
yep,
another thing we also talked about, which wow, he's pretty far down on this list, is Spencer Fano. And there's a bunch of these teams within this range, but I think that if Spencer Fano is there, depending on how highly graded you have these corners, I think it's more, I think you really need in this draft, if you're the Dolphins, to grab a piece for the future and a piece that you can really start this, what's really going to be a new era of your team. And needing to hit on this pick, I think I'm gonna go with the tackle and solidify that spot for whoever the future quarterback of this franchise is, because it will not be Tua.
yep, I agree with that pick. I think that is Patrick Paul really a guy that's stopping you? Austin Jackson sure as hell
Yeah,
isn't.
definitely not.
I know Patrick Paul and Spencer Fano both played on the right, and I know it's not as easy to just go say send them over to the left, but they'll figure it out.
Yeah, and now you with the Cowboys at 12.
Sonny Styles,
Yeah.
we just said
Wouldn't
it all.
wouldn't even bet an eye. Yeah. Yeah, he's an incredible player.
Mhm. We just said it all. That's the best fit here for the Cowboys, unfortunately. And that more than likely will be like one of those guys where it's like Tyler Warren to the Colts last year, where it's just like every single mock draft had Tyler Warren to the Colts, and that ended up being what's happened. And I think Sonny Styles could be that guy this year.
Yeah, and I think it's just that there's really no team ahead of them. And of course, there are teams that could use a linebacker, but there's no team ahead of them that truly needs a guy like Sonny Styles like the Cowboys do.
Agreed.
And the very realistic path here is that the first 11 picks go without Sonny Styles, and he's there on the board for them at 12. And yeah, I
Hmm.
think it was a very similar thing with Tyler Warren last year, where the first 14 picks just probably weren't going to be Tyler Warren.
Right. Although the Bears probably maybe could have took him, but I think they still love Colson
Yeah,
Loveland,
I think they're really happy with their pick though.
and I think
I
the
don't,
the
yeah,
Colts are too. So
yeah. All right. So moving on to the Rams at 13. Fano definitely would have been my pick here if he was available. Unfortunately, he is not for the Rams. So the next spot you would probably look at is the defensive back room. And the number one and number two guy on this list right now is Jermon McCoy and Mansour Delan. Now, it would be one of those two guys, and for me, it's probably going to be McCoy. But the other thing you really think about here is Ty Simpson. And at the end of the day, it's just if the Rams truly believe in Ty Simpson and if that coaching staff looks at him and says, this is a guy that we can develop into our franchise quarterback.
hmm
So at 13 here, I am gonna go with Jermon McCoy. I
really
just
got us there.
yeah. Yeah, make you think one way and then go the other way. But Jermon McCoy is the pick here at 13 for the Rams. Add the guy that you know is going to be just an unbelievable talent and a guy that can really elevate your secondary at a position that you definitely could use to improve. And I think the
Yeah.
Rams and who knows, maybe Ty Simpson's there at 29 for the Rams.
Right. Right, and that's if they like Simpson. If they love him, I would definitely be able to see them taking him at 13. I
Yeah,
definitely see the vision. I just think that Jermon McCoy is an immediate need, and that raises the ceiling of the defense right away. He honestly slots in as their number one corner probably right away.
yeah.
So I love the idea, and I think them that trade last year, getting that Falcons first pick was unbelievable.
And it's interesting because would you really rather have the 13th pick in this year's draft than James Pierce? Because
No, it works both ways.
I would rather have James Pierce.
Yeah, yeah. I'd rather have James Pierce if I'm the Falcons,
Yeah.
but
Not if you're the Rams.
no, I'd rather
Interesting.
have McCoy if I'm the Rams.
Okay.
And then
Now
they could grab another guy at 26 if they really want a pass rusher like that. There will be one at 26.
yeah. I mean, in theory, getting a first round pick of a team like the Falcons for the next season was a good trade.
Right.
It's just the player that the Falcons ended up taking that makes it look a little worse on the Rams part.
It's going to remind you a lot of what's going to happen in basketball with the Derek Queen trade,
Hmm.
where
That's a very good comparison, actually.
where the Pelicans are going to have a top 5 pick, and it's going to be like this draft is insane. So it's not the same because it's going to end up being if it ends up being one of those top 3, then you look
I think it's actually the opposite because I think in this one, this draft isn't as talented.
right. Right, I'd agree. And next year the draft is insanely talented in the
Yeah.
NBA, but it's still tough to compare sports.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on to 14, I'm going to go with Vega Ione.
Yeah.
I hate being so chalk, but it's just hard not to be.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the pick, you got to just make the right pick. And in this spot, I do think that Viggy Ioane is probably the best player available for the Ravens, maybe the best player available overall.
You have the fun ones in 11 and 20.
Yeah, I guess so. Um, Bucs at 15. No Sunny Styles for the Tampa Bay fans that have sharpied that in as their pick. Um, for Tampa Bay, I really think, I mean, with what we talked about, you look back at you look to the DB room and you look to the pass rush. And at the end of the day, it's just pick your favorite. I mean, that's really what the draft is. It's pick the best player available. And they are fortunately in a spot where a lot. I mean, if you look at the guys just on this PFF rankings, these are all really positions of need for the Bucs.
Yeah.
And that's just the first six guys on this list. So you can really have your pick of the corners or the defensive ends. And I think that if I'm Tampa Bay in this spot, I really want a difference maker on the defensive line because I think that getting better in the trenches is just more important at this stage with where the Bucs are at. Especially, I mean, with Todd Bowles is just he's very much on the hot seat. Probably the most on the hot seat coach in the NFL. So you want to improve your defense, and I think that the best way to do that is to address the trenches. And I'm gonna go with Cassius Howell
Okay.
because I think that at the end of the day, production overall, production over anything.
Hmm.
And the Bucs need a guy that can sack the quarterback, and he can certainly do that.
I thought Mesidor was where you were going with that.
That I definitely thought about it, but I think that's too high.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
agree. All right. At 16. This is tough. Um, okay. We're going off the board.
yeah,
Not that far off the board.
not that far. Are we going this far off the board?
Nope.
No.
This is gonna be someone we did not talk about, and
Okay.
it's gonna it might make a little bit more sense once you hear it and once you think about it. I'm gonna go with Denzel Boston.
Okay. I thought you were gonna go with one of the receivers when you said that. And it's not crazy because if you look at the spot that the Jets are in right now, it's just that you're trying to prepare for eventually plugging in that franchise quarterback.
Yep.
And yeah, the defense is bad, but adding another defensive player here isn't going to make them all of a sudden good.
Right.
Like they're not going to just improve overnight from they're not going to become a top defense in the NFL from two first round picks. And I do think that going receiver here is a very realistic possibility. I just think that I don't personally know if any of those receivers are worth taking at 16 if the top three are gone. But if the Jets really like Boston, I think that's a very realistic option.
Boston's a guy I'm high on. I watched almost
Yeah.
all of his games just from the connection to the coach a little bit. Um, Whatever it is. But I also think that something you don't think about as much now with the NIL era is you have to make the Jets as attractive as a spot as you possibly can. Because you
Yeah.
look at a guy like Dante Moore and you didn't make him want to come be a Jet. Like, so you have to give opportunities to guys. He's be like, yeah, and I get to throw to Garrett Wilson, I get to throw to Denzel Boston, um I have these two offensive tackles and whatever, and you're like, yeah, this is somewhere where I want to be.
Yeah. I think you said it really well. And I think that it could be surprising to some people, but receiver at 16 is definitely a possibility for the New York Jets. Now moving on to pick 17 with the Detroit Lions. I'm going to think about it a little bit. I think I'm going to stick with what I said originally, and I'm going to stick on the offensive line. And Viggo Ioane not being there for the Lions is definitely not the greatest, but I think that that's really what you have to address, and I think I'm just gonna pick Caleb Loma
Okay, yeah, and he could take over
for
for
Decker.
Taylor
That's
Decker at
that's
some
yeah, that's
point.
the ultimate plan
Uh-huh.
with this pick.
And it works
I
out.
just
It's
think
just he's a
I
good
I just
player.
think that the Lions have made their offensive line just such an identity for themselves, and that has to change this offseason because it really wasn't good last year.
Uh-huh. It was
And that
not as
really
good.
they really have to get it back to it being their identity.
Yeah, without a doubt. I definitely agree. All right, at 18, I'm having trouble balancing the what I would do and what I believe they would do aspect, which is always tough when you're doing mock drafts.
Yeah,
Um, so at 18, I'm gonna go more towards the not what I would do situation. I'm gonna go with Mansour Lane.
yeah. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean he's a corner that I am not necessarily high on, but I think his floor could be a lot higher than his ceiling is. And he's a guy at 18. If you're looking at a guy who's your cornerback two for the next 5 years, you're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that's very, very much an option for the Vikings. I think adding another piece to the DB room, as we talked about, could be very important. And at 19 for the Panthers, there's a bunch of spots that I'm really considering here. And
Are
I
three of
wanna
those Tiger logos speaking to you?
two of them are, not the top one, the other two.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the same thing of balancing what I would do, what they would do. I do think Avion Terrell would be a good pick here. I'm not going to go with Avion Terrell. TJ Parker would be the next spot I would look at. And then I'd run right past him and go to Kenyon Sadiq. And I just think if you're really trying to take that jump as a team from picking 19th overall to picking 32nd, I mean, what you really have to add difference makers. And I think that Kenyon Sadiq is a difference maker, and that's where I'm going to go.
I love it.
Yeah.
I really love it. I think it's a great fit. And tight end's a quarterback's best friend. If you can get Bryce Young, who likes to throw the ball really quickly, um, Kenyon Sadiq is the type of guy that's gonna has strong hands, is gonna come down with a lot of balls, and is athletic.
Yeah. And now the Cowboys at 20 to end it off.
All right, got to have some fun, right?
Yeah.
Can't just be
That's what a mock
boring.
draft is about.
I'm not just
Ty
gonna go
Simpson?
with what?
Ty Simpson?
No, I'm not gonna go with Ty
Okay.
Simpson. I'm gonna go with. All right, I have my guy. I'll give you five guesses. You won't get it.
Oof.
Actually, now
I'm
that I said
very
that,
interested to
it
see.
might take you one guess now. Now that I said that,
You have to be going offense if you're making it like this big of a deal, right?
yeah. Honestly, the more I
It's
think about it,
probably Concepcion, isn't
it
it?
is. It's
It
not
is.
that big of a
Okay.
deal, is it?
So
Casey
Casey
Concepcion.
Concepcion at 20 to the Cowboys, and now we're looking at this mock draft. I don't think there's another first round receiver still on the board.
There is not,
I
and I
mean, if
think there's a
you look at the guys still remaining, I don't know if
Zach,
I'm taking
Zach Branch is really low on this. I think he might be a first round receiver.
I don't know if he sneaks into the first round. I
He's the
think
next guy up, I think.
I
In
don't
my
know.
opinion, Elijah Surratt maybe.
It's close.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of guys here. I've seen a lot of good things about Chris Brassel recently with
yeah,
his performances, and Jeremy Bernard is a guy that
people
has
love.
has been a big riser. And then Chris Bell is just so tough. I think he would have been a first round pick if not for the injury.
Yep,
But the injury is definitely a factor. So
torn ACL, right?
yeah,
Yep,
that's so tough.
and it leaves you at 21 with Ty Simpson available.
That will. And that will leave us on a bit of a cliffhanger for the next video. So tune into that. We'll see what we want to do with having 12 picks left in this mock draft. But this has been our picks 11 through 20 deep dive, the second episode of this series. And Drew, thank you for joining me today once again. And we will see you all in the next video.
Thank you.